In the Bible Telling Life of Christ series, the Sermon on the Mount is the hardest story to learn, but it is well worth the effort. Because it's so hard to learn is the reason that we have made a very detailed storyboard. We're going to recommend that you go through it a piece at a time and make sure that you have each part down because it's worth the effort. Not only is it the hardest story to learn, you may find it's your favorite. Well, let's start with the Beatitudes. Now, the Beatitudes is not a storyboard like most of the others that we have gone through together. It is a word picture. You have to imagine a path that goes up a hill and down the other side. On this side of the hill are two poor people. They're so poor, you want to help them. So you reach in your pocket and you only have one coin. It is the Kingdom of Heaven coin. So you look at the two of them and one of them is poor in spirit. So you give him the Kingdom of Heaven coin. Well, the other one sees that you only have one coin, so he mourns. So you give him the only thing you can. You comfort him. So you have, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Well, you go up top of the hill, and there you find a man who's dressed like a real gentleman, but he's out in his garden, working in his garden, and he is a gentle man. So you say to him, do you own this land? He says, son, I own the whole earth. I've inherited the whole world. He says, are you hungry and thirsty? You say, well, actually, yes, I am. He says, here's some food and drink, and you eat and you drink until you are full. Blessed are the gentle, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they will be filled. Well, the man says, I know two things about you. Well, we're always interested if someone knows something about us. You say, well, what is it? He said, well, I saw what you did down at the bottom of the hill. You were merciful. Therefore, the first thing I know about you is that you will receive mercy. Well, that's not half bad. So you say, what's the other thing? He said, well, I can tell you have a pure heart. Kind of make the sign of a heart here. You have a pure heart. Therefore, the second thing I know about you is that you will see God. Blessed are the merciful, for they themselves will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Let's just review. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for they will receive the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those that mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the gentle, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness. Kind of hold your stomach, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they themselves will receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Well, you leave him and you go down the other side, and down there you see two mobs of people fighting one another. And so, being a peacemaker, you try to make peace among them. Well, one mob turns to you and says, well, who do you think you are? One of them says, I know who it is. He's a child of God. And of course, it's true. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be known as the children of God. Well, they don't like that at all, so they start throwing things at you and persecuting you for righteousness' sake. Because you're a child of God, they start persecuting you. And all of a sudden, something hits you and you pick it up, and it's another kingdom of heaven coin. Well, you gave one away, and now you have it back. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Well, the other mob says, not only is he a child of God, we know something about him. He follows Jesus. So they start ridiculing you and mocking you and persecuting you. And all of a sudden, as that's going on, you hear a voice. And it's talking to you. It says, blessed are you when people ridicule you and persecute you for my name's sake. And then the voice says, rejoice and be exceeding glad. You say, why should I rejoice? I'm being persecuted for your name's sake. The voice said, because great, look up here, great is your reward in heaven. Oh, well, that is worth rejoicing. The voice says, better than that, look behind you. You look back and you see, this is how they persecuted the prophets that came before you. Wow, that is worth rejoicing. Back up a little bit. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people persecute you for my name's sake. Rejoice and be exceeding glad, for great is your reward in heaven. This is how they persecuted the prophets that came before you. Well, you decide you want to look a little closer at that reward in heaven. So you look up there and, wait a minute. It's a large salt shaker. That's kind of a strange reward. And on top of that, it has a bright light shining behind it. Can you see it? Well, that's to help you remind you of the next part when it says, if you do these things, you will be the salt of the earth. You will be the light of the world. Okay, let's go through the whole thing now. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those that mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the gentle. Why? For they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are those who are merciful, for they themselves will obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be known as the children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people ridicule you, mock you, and persecute you for my name's sake. Rejoice! Why? Because great is your reward in heaven. This is how they persecuted the prophets that came before you. If you do these things, you will be the salt of the earth. You will be the light of the world. Okay, now at this point, I recommend you turn off the film, go through that several times, and then tell the Beatitudes. I even recommend that you go tell it to some other people before you continue on. Get the Beatitudes down, and when you're ready, come back, and we'll learn the rest of the storyboard for the Sermon on the Mount. Well, I trust you have done that. I trust you have learned the Beatitudes, and you have that down, and you practiced a few times. The rest of the Sermon on the Mount can be broken into three areas, plus the conclusion. We have get your hands out, you have the higher standard. Higher standard. Now with your hand up there, just bring it down to both sides of your eyes like you have blinders on, and that's to keep you from distractions. Higher standard, distraction, judging. So it goes up to down. Higher standard, distractions, judging. Now in the higher standard, the Jews considered the law as their standard. Jesus said That's true, but my disciples will have a higher standard. So he uses the law, 3 parts of it, to illustrate this. He says, like murder, kind of hold this knife. You see the blade coming out here? So you hold a knife. Come on, get your hands out here. Oh, hold your knife, okay? And then you bring your hand up for adultery. That's murder. This is adultery. Then down to equal justice. Again, murder, adultery, equal justice. Now we're going to add to that. You have murder, then hate. They're the same. Murder, hate. Then you have adultery, and then open up your fingers and look through. That's lust. Certain things you shouldn't look at. So adultery, lust. Then you have equal justice. There's revenge and love. So, higher standard. You have murder, hate, adultery, lust, equal justice, revenge, and love. Now that's all part of the higher standard. Then there's distractions and judging others. Again, at this point, turn off the film, review this, get it down, then when you're ready, come back and we'll go through the rest of the storyboard. Okay, now that you have done that, you have the higher standard. Now we have the distractions. Well, there are 3 of them. Distractions, you have your hands up like this right here. Now just bring your hands down and kind of hold your vest like you're really proud. First one is pride. And then, along with pride, you put your fingers out like you're greedy. Kind of rub your fingers together like you're greedy. And then your hand up and you worry. So, pride, money, worry. Let's look at each of those. First of all, pride. You kind of hold your hand up to your vest like you're really proud, and you give something to someone in a very proud way. So you're proud in your giving. Then you're proud in your praying. And you're proud in fasting. You hold your hand over your mouth like you're fasting, then you point to it like you're really proud of it. Okay, so it's pride in giving, praying, fasting. Now you bring your fingers out, you have money. Then you grab a hold. That's the grip that money can have in your life. Then you look both ways, realizing you can't serve 2 masters. Okay, so the higher standard, pride in giving, praying, fasting. There's the distraction of money, the grip of money. 2 masters. So there's pride, money, and then worry. What are you worried about? Worried about something to eat and something to drink and some clothes. But you talk about clothes, you look on your shoulder and there's a bird on your shoulder. But you look a little closer and the bird's not actually on your shoulder. It's on a flower that is on your shoulder. That is to remind you that don't worry. God even provides for the birds. And He clothes the flowers, the wildflowers of the field. Okay, let's review all of this and then we'll have you turn the film off again. Higher standard. Murder, hate, adultery, lust, equal justice, revenge, and love. Distractions, pride in the way you give, pray, and fast. Money, the grip of money. 2 masters. Worry about food, drink, clothes. It's a bird on a flower. Okay, turn it off. Go all the way out, review all of this until you have it down, and then come back and we'll finish her up. The first one is a higher standard, distractions, then judging. Now, judging, like the Beatitudes, uses word pictures, except they're not my word pictures. Jesus himself had these word pictures. In judging, it's as foolish as a man with a piece of lumber in his eyes. He has a piece of lumber in his eye, and he ignores it because over there he sees a speck of sawdust in someone else's eye. Can you see that? Lumber, speck of sawdust. Now this man here looks over this direction. He sees two blind men that fall in a ditch. This is good. Piece of lumber, speck of sawdust. Two blind men fall in a ditch. Now, you take the lumber out, you get this big container and you start filling it up, and you shake it back and forth and you pat it down. And then when you get it all the way to the rim, you put it to your body and you put more in and get it up above the rim. Okay, that's judging. So you have the higher standard with the murder, hate, adultery, lust, equal justice, revenge, love, distractions. What are the distractions? First of all, it's pride in the way we give, pray, fast. Then we have the distraction of money, the grip of money, two masters. Then worry, food, drink, and clothes. See a bird on a flower. Then, higher standard, distraction, judging. A man with a piece of lumber in his eye, but he ignores that because of a speck of sawdust in someone else's eye. Two men falling in a ditch, blind men. Then he fills a container. Okay. The whole Sermon on the Mount ends with a conclusion. Very simple. You have to make a choice. There are two roads. One is real wide, one's real narrow. And then there's two houses. One built upon the rock, one built upon the sand. Now the way to remember that, you see two roads. One, the narrow road, is leading to the house built on the rock. The wide one is the one going to the house built upon the sand. Okay, review this, draw it out. This one probably you need to draw it out. I found it very, very helpful to draw all this out and get in my mind. Actually, I've gone through to some little areas, little pieces of it that I kind of would forget easily, and I made additional storyboard to help me with those areas. You will probably have to do the same. This gives you a beginning, though. This gives you a place to start. Learn it. It is a detailed storyboard because it's a hard story to learn. But like I said before, it will probably become your favorite story once you learn to tell it. The Lord bless you as you now endeavor to learn the Sermon on the Mount.